This week's Toy Talks podcast episode is dedicated to Jamal Edwards, a pioneer, a trailblazer. He single-handedly transformed the music industry. He is the creator, founder, and the originator of SBTV. There's so many music artists today that, if it wasn't for Jamal Edwards, would not have a career. He transformed the industry, transformed our community, and really transformed the way in which we create. Rest in peace, King. Be the change you want to see in the world is one of my favourite quotes and something I'm trying to live by. If we can look at music and culture in the same way, people won't be told, no, you can't do that. They will chase bigger dreams and be free to express themselves how they want. The arts can be the most powerful vehicle for change and should be respected as such. By Jamal Edwards. Hello and welcome to Tuesday's episode of the Toy Talks podcast. My name is, of course, Toy Washington, and each and every Tuesday we have a brand new spectacular episode because you guys know I pour everything into the Toy Talks platform and the podcast episode, and I really do enjoy delivering to you guys a brand new episode every week. This episode, I want to talk about confidence, and I think it's really important, irrespective of the industry you're in, your age. We need to talk about confidence as Black women. And I'd like to think in various episodes I've kind of touched on it, but I want to dedicate this episode to confidence. The ingredients required to be confident, because I can't teach you how to be confident. I can only explain to you what motivates my confidence and the ingredients that go into, for me, being a confident person. But everybody has different levers, different motivators, and different things that drive them. And equally, everyone has a different voice and everyone has their own individual essence. So 2 weeks ago, I woke up and I logged on to work, and it was just an ordinary day, nothing different, you know. And as I sat at my desk, I got a message from somebody I would have considered, I wouldn't say a close friend, I would just say a friend, somebody who developed a friendship in development, right? And this was the message. Hey darling, how are you? I had a dream about you, random I know, that you went on holiday and got lost at sea. So random. I just wanted to check in with you and see how you are, babe. I miss you. And she wrote her son's name. Wants to meet you, love. Soon, love. When I read that message, I was all types of confused. Because I didn't understand where that message came from. This is somebody who got married about 2 years ago, and all her friends were dropping out of the wedding. And she thought I would drop out. I was like, no. I invited my best friend. We booked our tickets, booked our hotel, and we got on the plane to Morocco to support my growing friendship with this person. What I couldn't get my head around is every now and then, you know, she'd message and things like that. I got engaged, I told her, she was excited. You know, she recently had a child and COVID, so I'm not leaving my house. But she stays watching my Insta story. She don't miss an Insta story. So for me, what I couldn't understand is, where did this, you had a dream and I went on holiday and I got lost at sea. And that is how you wanted to greet me at 9:15 on a Monday morning. You didn't dream of me winning the lottery. You didn't dream of me on a super yacht that had my name on the side of it because I bought it. You didn't dream of me being a multi-millionaire. What you dreamt of me is going on holiday and I was lost out to sea. So basically I died. I died. Yeah, that's what it means. And what I couldn't understand is, this girl watches my Insta stories. You guys who follow me on social media, I'm living my life, you understand? My life is not perfect, and I'm very honest about that. But I am living my life, honey, and I am doing the best that I can with the tools and the things that I have. And I definitely think I come across as somebody who is very authentic because I am being myself. And equally, somebody who's quite, balanced. I like to have a laugh. I'm a bit silly. You guys know I'm always laughing and doing something stupid. But I'm always in my... I always feel like I'm in my element of whatever it is I'm doing. I'm walking in my path. So how somebody could dream of me going out to sea, I don't understand. And you all know, as black people, we ain't got no business with water apart from bathing, showering and washing pots. We have not got no business in water. In my culture, spiritually, and I go that way. But my thing is, that's not a positive dream. It's not a positive dream. And where I come from, even if you had such a dream like that, you don't share it. You go and you pray and rebuke. But you wanted to share it with me. You wanted to share it with me. And I had to really think, after I responded to her anyway, I said to her, listen, back to sender. I said, don't come to me with that. I said, this dream is a bullshit. I said, I cast and bind it and I wrap it around and choke that dream back to the sender. If you're sending it to me, back to the sender. I wrote it there. Let that dream go back to who created it. Because that dream didn't happen. That dream did. I'm telling you, this is somebody I don't talk to. We message now and then. I went to your wedding, haven't seen you since then because of COVID. You ain't dreaming about me, darling. You're not. This is a way for you to get my attention, and you sent me a picture of your child telling me, oh, your child wants to meet me. Well, if your child wants to meet me, apparently I'm out to sea. So I don't understand. But then I had to really think about it. I had to really take myself away and think about it. Why would you do that? In any type of world or dimension, no one would ever think that that's a positive thing to say to someone. You don't know what someone's doing. You don't know where they are. You don't know where they are in their life. But this is how you choose to greet somebody at 9:13 in the morning. You do realise that when you are living your life, when you are truly living in the essence of who you are, it can shake the foundation of people who are still discovering who they are. It's like a reminder to them of their journey of self-discovery. When somebody, how many people say to you, oh my God, you know what, I'm so inspired by your confidence? How many people say that? How many people say to you, do you know what, I love how confident you are. Congratulations. This girl didn't remember to message me when I launched my stationery collab. She didn't remember to congratulate me when I'm posting or whatever I'm doing on social media, but she remembered to come and tell me her dream of me being lost out to sea. I cast and bind it in the name of Jesus. May the ancestors do away with that dream. May that spiritual bondage not even enter my sphere. The reason I share that with you is this episode is about confidence, and I want to talk about that. But I equally want you to understand that confidence in who you are and the essence of who you are is on Front Street for people who see your greatness. Sometimes the lack of confidence, it renders you sometimes unable to see the confidence that radiates in you. You know, like when some people say, I can see that in you. Sometimes people can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. And often when you do discover who you are and the essence of who you are, and you discover your purpose and you're walking in your purpose, there are going to be people who are going to try to attack that. That is very true. So there's no point of me telling you about the ingredients and the essence of being confident without me telling you also and having you understand that even in a state of confidence, there will still be people that will try and test the authenticity, the realness of that confidence, and you have to be able to see through it and not absorb that energy. Because what happens is when you start absorbing that negative energy, you start then giving life to self-doubt. You have to be like a fortress of yourself and your confidence and your purpose, and that is how I have become. A few months ago at work, I was in a meeting, and there was a fellow black woman in a different team to me, but she was on this call. and it was part of a steering group. Yeah, so we were meeting every week for 4 weeks or 5 weeks, something like that, maybe even 6 weeks. And one thing with me is when I'm meeting people for the first time, I do my due diligence. I'm very quiet. I just observe. And what I loved is being able to see someone who looked like me, a fellow black woman, but not all skin folk is kinfolk. And we've got an episode and we talk about that. Allegiances and alliances, we talk about that. We've spoken about it on the podcast already. So for me, I'm seeing this fellow black woman and I'm excited within myself because I know that she worked damn hard to get where she is, but I need to understand kind of who is she turning up as. So it's me, her, and 2 white men and 1 white woman. And as we're in this meeting, you know when you start off the meeting and people join, they might join 1 or 2 minutes late, people will say these awkward jokes to fill up the awkward silence. And I'm not that person. If I decide to put my camera on, I'm on mute. Yeah? And I think because I saw this black woman put her camera on, I decided to put mine on because I wanted her to see that there's someone here that looks like you too. And equally, I wanted to see if I could kind of decipher her reaction. So clearly she knew the other people on the call. I only knew one of the white ladies on the call. And one of them was, you know, having like I call it, you lot call it banter, right? Because I don't like that word banter. But I call them cheap jokes. They're cheap jokes. So they were saying to her, oh, that she's no longer in her kitchen. Where is she? And she said, oh, she's moved to a different part of the house. And I thought, this is a bit familiar. Because these people don't know me. So I don't understand why you're telling me that she's no longer in her kitchen. Like, they made a point of saying that. The second call we had, they said, oh, you've put on a bit of makeup. You look alive. And she was laughing. But her laugh was fake. I could tell it was that uncomfortable laugh where you feel like you have to laugh. But because she set the tone of that laughing, she has to follow through with it. You can't make those jokes with me. Because I don't even give you opportunity to think that you can. You understand? Don't get me wrong, in work, like you have your little jokes, but there are boundaries in which those jokes are had. And for me, I control the narrative of them jokes. I control the jokes you're going to tell with me. And that's on period. Because you give people an inch, they take 1.5 miles and some more. And I'm not having it. And you could tell she was beginning to feel uncomfortable. Like she'd made an effort for this meeting and they're poking fun out of her. But she's giving them opportunity, and they took opportunity. Okay. The following call, she changed her hair. And she had braids. She actually inspired me to get my braids, to be honest. She had these beautiful, you could tell they were long braids, but it really accentuated the features of her face. Beautiful woman. And one of them said to her, oh, the white man, oh, you've changed your hair. Looking like Bob Marley. Ha 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 ha. Everyone started laughing. She didn't find it funny. And she didn't laugh. And then the other white guy said, oh, it's only a joke. Come on. Sing a song. In a meeting. I'm just there watching them. You can't tell that joke with me. The next meeting. Obviously, you know some white people in the workplace, they have to test boundaries. So I'm keeping it professional here because I can see that they've blurred the lines with her. And these, listen, some white people think all black people look alike. So I don't want them thinking that they can tell them these jokes with me. So then, I had one of my headscarves on. I think some of you will remember, like I wear like a lot of coloured headscarves and stuff because my hair was growing. I was like in between stage, and so I just decided to wear one of my headscarves. And the same white man that said to the woman that she looks like Bob Marley said to me, "Oh, you've had a hairstyle change, Toya." I took my mic, I unmuted myself. There's no hairstyle change. This is a headscarf. And I've learned the art of dragging silence. I said, there's no hairstyle change. This is my headscarf. You look so uncomfortable. And the thing is, when you're dealing with microaggressions like that. Yeah. Some of these white people, they tell on themselves because they turn like tomatoes. They start looking like a tomato. It started turning red. Yeah. He looked like a fire alarm. He looked, in the school, but no, not the fire alarm, the fire extinguisher. It looked, in school when you had a bright red fire extinguisher, he looked like a fire extinguisher. His head was as fat as one as well. You see, what I realized is this black woman was allowing and using banter to find a way in with them. She wasn't confident enough to kind of be herself. She had to hide behind the jokes because that's the tactic that she decided to use. Toya, how do you know that? Because after the call, she sent me an IM message on Teams. And she said, Toya, have you got a few minutes? I said, yeah, I do. She called me. And she said, how did you do that? I said, do what? She said, how do you manage to just keep your composure? These people don't take me seriously. I said, well, how are they going to take you seriously if you allow them the opportunity to tell jokes at your expense? Why are you at the butt of the jokes? Why have you placed yourself at the butt of the jokes? And she said, well, you have to do anything you can to get a seat at the table. I said, but babes, why do you want to sit at that table? This is a meeting chaired by you. You are the reason why we're at this meeting. You're the reason why we're at this dinner group. You are one of the key stakeholders. And you need to be comfortable enough that you're allowed to kind of be in that position. And you using jokes or you using banter or you being at the butt of the jokes to make you feel like you're part of them. You're never going to be a part of them. You're a black woman. My man thinks you're related to Bob Marley. He probably thinks me and you are one in the same. I said, don't let it go above your head that sometimes he will accidentally call you Toya and then he will accidentally call me by your name. I said, that doesn't go above my head. And every time I would correct him and I would be stern and firm in my approach. They can't tell them jokes with me. I said, was it not me that had makeup on the other day? I said, they can't even say a damn word. I said, you've got to find the confidence enough to be yourself. And being confident means you've got to believe that you're allowed to be in this job, in this role. And I says, everybody has different ways of projecting confidence. But actually, in you allowing them to tell jokes at your expense, what you showed them is that you are vulnerable. Don't ever think that they don't know that you were vulnerable or uncomfortable or felt vulnerable. They knew this and they took advantage because you gave them an inch, so they took 1.5 miles. And she said, I agree. And she goes, I'm just trying to find a way to fit in. I said, well, you just have to accept you're never going to fit in. You're a black woman. You're black and you're a woman. You're not going to fit in. And you shouldn't want to fit in. It's like an old boys club. Why would you ever? I said, they're literally a couple of meetings away from calling you the N-word as a joke, banter. And the thing is, what you're not realising is you are also responsible then for how they then attempt to deal with me. But because I've observed everything and I understand how I need to position myself, I have to be at a heightened state of alert to make sure that I don't even give an inch. She agreed. It was the last time I spoke to her anyway. I didn't have any further meetings. The reason why I'm kind of bringing this up is somebody asked me if I can explain how to be confident. And how I am confident. Where do you get that from? I wasn't born with confidence. I do think that how you are raised has an impact on confidence. If you're kind of raised in a home where you're able to express yourself and things like that, I do feel like that has a bearing. And what I will say is my dad always encouraged me to say how I felt. And I wasn't raised like a girl. I was raised like the boys. And I've said this before in a previous episode. My dad was very, very clear about wanting to raise me like the boys, because I think that he felt as though if he raised me like the boys, then I'll be a lot more independent. And he didn't want to raise me like the stereotypical girl. He wanted me to understand certain life skills, but he didn't want to raise me like that. So I think that in a way, I became a lot more confident in myself because I was comfortable being around the opposite sex anyway. And a lot of my relatives, they're mainly boys and men. You know, I don't have a lot of female cousins. So I would say that would be the foundation. But also I think I realized that, and I quickly realized that in the world of work, I'm working with managers that some of them haven't even sat GCSEs. They're not even confident. They're just confident in their white privilege. And the confidence from white privilege is unbelievable because it's audacious audacity. You only have to look at Boris Johnson to know how audacious white privilege is. But I recognize and realize that confidence plus being a subject matter expert plus being seasoned has given me confidence. But even when I was younger and, you know, I had been burnt quite a few times, I realized that a lot of what got me through the door is confidence as well. I would say that would account for about 30% of the reason. You see, confidence has to come from the development of self. You have to be able to sit in yourself and understand who you are, because society is quite willing to tell you who you are. Society is quite willing to crush you and deposit self-doubt in you. And you have to be able to go on the journey and have a coat of armor that is willing to fake it till you make it. I remember when I got my job at Goldman Sachs. And to this day, I will go on record to say that yes, I had, you know, I'd worked really hard and all of this and all of this. But it was confidence. I looked every single person in the panel in their eye. It's like I spoke to every one of them with every question they asked me at interview stage. You see, confidence is like a jacket. Every time I left my house, I put the jacket on. That jacket was not just my confidence, it was my suit of armor, it was my coat of armor. It was where I felt safe in this jacket. And I'd go to work in this invisible jacket that you maybe couldn't see, but I did see. And I could be anybody I wanted to, because I realized that no one was ever going to dictate to me who I am. And don't ever get it twisted. I suffer, and I have suffered from imposter syndrome. I don't suffer from it anymore. I don't suffer from imposter syndrome anymore because I realised that I work in and amongst people who only have white privilege as their passport. And those people who are educated don't ever believe that I could ever be at the same educational capacity as them because they think that they had better access to education, and a lot of them did. But the great thing about them having greater access to education is that they think that I'm not on their level. Therefore, they underestimate me. I do my due diligence and I take my time to understand where my limitations sit. I'm not too afraid to make mistakes and ask for help. And I'm also not too afraid to be a student of learning and a student of life. Where I work currently, the industry that I work in at the moment, I had no experience. I had absolutely no experience. I was, my CV, I gave my CV to somebody who I knew that worked in the organisation, and they never interviewed me. They never gave me an interview. They said to me, I need to apply on the website. So I did. Didn't hear anything. So my friend had said, we got an email today saying that they're looking, to hire people. They really want people who have XYZ skills. And I spoke to the head of the recruitment drive, and I said, listen, I know this really great consultant. You're looking for consultants. This is somebody who I think would be great. So she forwarded my CV to the person. The person called me. He said, your experience is absolutely fantastic. He was like, your friend said that you applied directly and you didn't hear anything. He said, I'm so sorry. He said, listen, leave this with me. I'll get someone to call you. So, all right, cool. Now, I'd already finished my contract I was working on an assignment in 2020, April 2020, and COVID had kind of hit, and I just decided that I was going to take 6 months off. When COVID hit, I realised that that wasn't the best time to take time off because it was such an uncertain time. So when he had said that he would get someone to call me, I was like, great. I was still applying for certain contractor roles in my industry. And from a consultant perspective, the market was okay, But I definitely could see that, the pandemic had hit hard. So the jobs weren't as frequent as us that we're used to seeing. So then I get a call from a lady and she says, can you have an interview today at 3? This was like at midday. I said, yeah, no problem. So this was like early stages of that whole remote interviewing. And 3 o'clock, logged on for my interview. And the woman said, tell me about your experience. And I said, well, you've got my CV. And she goes, okay, but I want you to summarise it for me. And I did. I started with kind of the one role that I think defined me. Then I spoke about the role that I learned the most in. And then I spoke about the role that I feel as though really gave me the confidence to be able to fully embrace being a consultant. She said to me, I love your confidence, but you've never worked in this particular industry before. I mean, you've been a commercial contract consultant for several years, and you've worked in finance, you've worked in professional services, you've worked in tech, you've worked in charity, but you've not worked in this particular area before. And I said, I know. But clearly you can see from my CV that I've got experience in different areas, which means I'm adaptable and I'm able to, learn on the job while still being supported by an organisation to fully upskill me so that I'm able to deliver. Because to get the best out of me, to really optimise my skill set, you have to be able to take the opportunity to allow me to learn as well. She said, you know what? I'm going to take you through to the next stage. So I got to the next stage and I was offered the contract. And the contract was only meant to be 6 months and then 9 months. And then I've been there for about 15 months. But I did ask for feedback. I was really clear about wanting to get feedback. I wanted to understand kind of how I did. And one thing that came through was confidence. You were really confident. I believed that you could do this role as a consultant, even though you hadn't done this industry before, because you were confident. And that confidence, I think, is what will enable you to be successful. You see, confidence is like something edged on your forehead. It's what introduces you. And it's about also finding the balance with confidence, because I feel like there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. You need to be confident enough that people are convinced of what you're saying, but humble enough to accept that you're still learning and you're on a journey. I can't sit here and tell you how to be confident. What I can tell you is the ingredients of confidence is knowing yourself, or at least being on the journey of self-discovery, understanding imposter syndrome and when it shows up for you, and remembering when to wear your coat. Understanding that there is going to be a level of fake it till you make it, and that's okay. And remember that your greatest superpower is being a black woman. Those 4 things for me are the key ingredients to being confident. I recognise that I work in an industry that's very white male dominated. So if I don't show up with confidence, these people will eat me, chew me up and spit me back out. You guys have gone on the journey of previous episodes and I've told you what I've been through in this particular organisation and previous organisations where I, as a commercial contract consultant, is giving commercial advice and I'm having pieces of paper thrown at me and then having to go through that process of a grievance. That takes a level of confidence. I understand what I expect and I'm willing to advocate for myself to be able to ascertain what I deserve in an organisation. Respect is one of the basic minimum things I expect. There are times when I'm not so confident. So for example, even tapping into my creativity and developing Toya Talks in the podcast and the platform. And I think public speaking comes quite naturally to me. And I think it comes from my parents, especially I would say my mum. I talk about this in the negotiation masterclass, going with my mum to Dalston Market every other Saturday, or for me it was every other Saturday, but I know she would go every Saturday, and watching her negotiate with the fruit and veg guy, and there'd be many fruit and veg stores. If you've been to Dalston Market, it's a bit like Peckham Market. And my mum would literally play two market stall holders off against each other. And I used to be in awe of it, in awe of the confidence for her to know that, number one, that she has the leverage and the power to be able to decide where she spends her money, but equally the confidence to kind of stand in front of these two white men and say, I want this for this price, are you going to give it to me because this one's giving it to me for that much? There is a confidence in that. My mum was shameless because her motivation was feeding her children and her family. And watching that made me feel, I felt so proud without really realising it. Proud that my mum was using her voice. I understood at a very young age that my mum was a black woman, and she's talking to these white men who were very kind of aggressive in their sales approach. But my mum was not going to be intimidated by them. How many of us watched our parents go out to fruit and veg store, to the supermarket, or sorry, not to the supermarket, but where they could negotiate, so like a fruit and veg store, and have those kind of interactions? There is a level of confidence. I mean, let's be honest here. There's different places in which confidence emanates. Confidence comes from being able to negotiate with the fruit and veg guys. It comes from being able to use your voice to advocate for yourself, and we've got a podcast about advocating for yourself. It comes from speaking up in meetings. You know, people ignoring you. I've told you guys, I've been in meetings before. People just ignoring me. I'll put my hands up. You know, you can use Teams to put your hands up. People ignore me, and then I just have to unmute myself and use my voice. There's a confidence in that. There's a confidence of being out of your comfort zone. That is confidence. Confidence is not the big elaborate, you know, it starts with the small things, and I think that we need to give ourselves grace of being able to identify points in our lives when we are confident. Confidence is when I'm driving and I know I've got right of way and somebody is driving behind me trying to intimidate me. No, I'm going to be confident enough to say I'm following the rules of the road, and I this is my right of way. I went with Kay to the food tasting for our traditional wedding recently, and where was we? Went to Kent. Oh my god, Chatham. Oh, I've never driven down there before. And if you know anything about me, when I'm going somewhere I haven't been before, I do get a bit nervous. There is a nervousness because I'm just like, oh my god, you know, this is different. And I will go on my phone, and I do think it's part of my learning disability as well. I'll go on my phone and I will look at like how complicated it is to get somewhere. I don't like third exits on a roundabout. Nah, darling. Nah. I don't like it, darling. I'm too far into the roundabout. I need to be like lane 1 and 2. As soon as I go from lane 3 onwards, honey, I don't like you too. So as I was driving, there was a car behind me, and now the road bends. So if the road bends, I'm not doing 30 miles per hour, yeah? If the road bends, I'm doing about 25. The car behind me was so close that if I had braked, he would have hit the back of my car. But what he did was he got really, really close to the back of my car to intimidate me to drive faster, because he clearly had somewhere to go. He clearly didn't want to overtake me. But he wanted to enforce his will to get, and I said no. I said no. This road is a bendy road. It doesn't make sense in this rain to be driving at 30 miles per hour where the weather conditions aren't great and my visibility isn't fantastic. And Kay was like, what is he doing? I said, no, it's fine. I'm going to keep doing I'm doing the right thing here. That is confidence. Confidence in my car, confidence in my driving ability, and confidence in my right. You see how confidence manifests itself in every part of your life? I put my coat on with armour and I got in my car. I was armed with the knowledge of understanding where I'm going because I'd looked at my Google Maps. I was driving the right way I should drive, and I was being safe. So when somebody asks me, how do you become confident? I do the quick wins of life. There are things in life that give you quick wins of confidence. So in the example I just gave about driving, I felt confident because I was right. And he had no choice but to wait for me to go where I was going until he was ready to turn off. Not allowing myself to be distracted by the pressure that he's trying to put me under. And it's hard and it's difficult. But again, self-belief. I believe I'm a good driver. I believe that I have every right, like everybody else, to drive. I did my driving test. I did my driving lessons. So who is this man to make me feel inferior on the road just because he has somewhere to go? And if I bash my car, he'll just be going off where he wants to go. And that's the attitude I feel like we need to bring to work. We've worked really hard to get where we are. When I see a black woman, I know she ain't had it easy. Because we, as black women, never get it easy. We don't get a pass, yeah? There's no privilege for us to climb up the ranks. So when we go into work or when we show up as ourselves, there is a confidence. There has to be a confidence because we've worked hard and made sacrifices to get there. So I recognize the confidence of being able to go through a process that has not been built to our benefit and being in the same organization or same place and seeing someone who looks like me. There's a confidence. Let's give each other that quick win. But the example that I wanted to give was about when I did my first Toy Talks Live in 2018. Those people who came I don't know if you remember this, but I came out and I introduced myself and I explained how the day was going to go. And then I was like, I'm going to go to a break. I went in the back. Kay went in there, in the back. He goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, I just introduced myself and giving myself a quick break. He goes, no. He goes, snap out of this. They've all come out to hear you, Toya. And you've got to own that stage. And you've got to deliver. Because they believe in you. And at that point, it was the infancy of Toy Talks. I think that was my first Toy Talks Live. And I kind of felt like, what right do I have to be able to be in a theatre like this, holding an event that was birthed from Snapchat, my daily work? Like, who am I? I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm Toya. And I have a voice. And I'm going to use it. You see how we opened the Toy Talks podcast episode this week? Be the change you want to see, is what Jamal Edwards says. Rest in peace. The change that I want to see in the world of work for us black women, I have to be the change that I want to see. I have to use my voice. I have to create the platform. I have to feed into that platform, and I have to be the example. I went back out there and delivered probably... I delivered as far as I'm concerned, I delivered one of the best Toy Talks Live I think I will ever do, because there's always going to be the first. And the feedback was absolutely amazing. I had so many emails, and literally that gave birth to Toy Talks that you see today. Imposter syndrome is real. If I had listened to that voice in my head, I wouldn't have come back out to deliver Toy Talks. I would have been issuing refunds. Quick wins. And then on Monday I go to work and I think to myself, these people don't know about me. They don't know who I am. Do they know who I am? I just held an event for 200 plus capacity, delivering a live event, educating, teaching and guiding black women how to navigate the world of work. And I'm here and I've got this person in front of me telling me what I have and haven't done. Do you know who the hell I am? But then doing those things gave me confidence too, right? So that when I'm going into the world of work, I'm confident in myself because I know what I'm doing outside of work as well. And that again is building my character and it's building me as a person. We don't spend enough time building ourselves as people. A lot of us are broken adults, emotionally broken adults, and we're adults we are broken children masquerading as adults. A lot of us are. And every time we go into the world of work and something happens, they are breaking that inner child inside of us, right? Who has gone through trauma, who has been told we can't, that inner child in us that is broken, masquerading as adults. We haven't even done the healing as children. When you look at imposter syndrome and really think about where your imposter syndrome comes from, you have to start looking at your younger years. You do. You have to start looking, because imposter syndrome doesn't just start. It just doesn't appear one day. It started from somewhere. In order for you to be able to be confident, you have to be able to speak to your inner child. You have to be able sometimes to take a step back and speak to the inner child. I often speak to the 16-year-old Toya. I often speak to the 18-year-old Toya. And sometimes I speak to the 6-year-old Toya. I do. Because the 6-year-old Toya don't even understand what the 30-year-old Toya is doing. Like, I'm living the dream that I never even thought I was capable of dreaming at 6. The 16-year-old Toya is like, girl, they told you after your GCSEs you weren't shit. And now you're a whole consultant, blowing the 16-year-old's mind. And then often having to remind myself that at like 8 or 9, 7, 8, 9, I couldn't even spell the word birthday, and I ended up being humiliated and wetting myself in front of the class because my teacher had humiliated me. I'm having to deal with that. And then I'm having to then hold meetings with these CFO, COO, head of this, head of that, and be the authority on all things commercial contract management. That is some deep shit. But at the foundation of it, the confidence that I have is that no one gave this shit to me. No one gave this shit to you. You worked hard for it. I will never forget a girl when I had a clubhouse room, and she basically said that she had been in human resources for a really long time, and she worked really hard to get to that post, and she'd only been in post, like she had a few years experience, but she only had been in a current post for less than 6 months. And then she had been promoted to, I think it's like head of HR. And she said, Toya, I'm not ready. I said, what? What do you mean you're not ready? So we as black women wait till we're ready? Is that what we're doing now? But obviously I know where that comes from. We feel like we need to be in a more junior role to gain the confidence to be at a senior role. But what you don't realise is you gain the confidence being in the senior role, because that's where you're going to be challenged the most. If you're waiting to apply for a role that you're qualified for, you're never going to be in the role you're qualified for. Sometimes you have to be able to put yourself in a position to challenge yourself. Have the confidence to challenge yourself, to apply for roles that you think that you may not be qualified for. Because you see these non-black people and white people, they have an audacious audacity that they may not have any qualifications, any experience, but they'll apply for that role just because they have an interest. And that, to me, is a certain state of confidence that we should all aspire to have, to be honest. Because we know that it wouldn't be enough to have an interest. We have done the work. That qualifies you. You see, you have to place yourself in a situation whereby you understand that. Until you have self-belief and develop the confidence within you, you're not going to be in a position to encourage confidence in people to want to place you in those senior positions. It's like you're telling yourself, I don't think I'm ready. Why are you telling them that? Why? Do you know what gives me the confidence every day to continue? The fear of being poor. That's one of my motivations, the fear of being poor. You see, being able to forge a career and being able to be in a position whereby I can command a certain day rate, and being in a position where I can hold steering groups and meetings with very, very senior stakeholders, I recognize that confidence has got me paid. Confidence has got me paid. So for me, I'm like, if I'm anything less than confident, number one, no one's going to believe in what I'm trying to do here. No one's going to believe that I am really best in class at what I do. Every time I get up and I show up for myself, there's a confidence that is required to do that. Because you see, there's nothing that intimidates white middle class men in my industry than a confident black woman. Gets me paid. Because being confident in what I do, being able to develop myself as a subject matter expert, means that I then become the authority in the room. You see, I don't have to beat my chest, I don't have to shout like some of them do to be the authority. I just need to be confident enough to convince you that I know what I'm talking about. And don't ever get it twisted. I've been in rooms before and only known a little bit, but I'll make out like I've read the entire book, and then afterwards I'll go and read the entire fucking book. Do you understand? I recognize within myself that I am very aware of my learning disability. I'm hypersensitive to it. So what happens is, because I'm hypersensitive to it, I put certain things in place to help me so that it doesn't become a limitation. There is a confidence you have to have in knowing how you learn, knowing how you do things, and then working out how to be the best in class to be able to deliver. There's a confidence that's required. So when someone says, how do you become confident? Well, how you become confident has to start with how you take the time to know who you are. You're living in a society, and we are living in a society that tells us that black women are nothing. They don't treat us like we're anything. They trigger us daily. They mock us. They mimic us. They disrespect us. So confidence is all I have. Confidence is all I have. And what is that confidence? Your identity. You have to be confident in who you are. And this is why I say to people, take the time to get to know who you are. Get to know what triggers you, where your limitations are, what makes you vulnerable. You need to know that within yourself. So that when people are trying to tell you who you are, no, that's not who I am. Excuse me, who gives you the right to tell me who I am? I'll tell you who I am. Let me introduce myself to you. Especially when we're working in organizations and industries that have not been created for our benefit. So we are already working in industries that we know that has been deliberately created to benefit non-black people. If you know that, then there is a confidence that, number one, that you're walking into these industries, but you have to be able to have your coat of armor as you walk into these industries. You have to be able to develop yourself to a point where you understand that in order to be successful, you have to be confident in what you know, and you actually have to know it. You know, there's an element of faking it till you make it, but even that fakeness has to have sprinkles of actually knowing it. Do you understand what I'm saying? For me, I've always been motivated also by being better than my manager. Where I work at the moment, is the first time that I've worked with a manager who is best in class at what she does and knows more than me. She knows more than me. And it just so happens that she's a mixed race woman and she identifies as black. So it doesn't go above my head that she's had to know and be better than, because she is, operating in organizations and operating in businesses where she's often the only one or the token. And it's actually nice to be in a situation where she sees me and highly regards me and knows that for my project, I'm the authority. But I give her due respect by coming to and seeking guidance from her. There's a quiet confidence to be able to go and say, actually, do you know what? I don't know this. You have to be confident to also be vulnerable. There's a confidence that is required there. But being vulnerable with the right people at the right time. Because what people don't understand is when you admit to not knowing something, there's a vulnerability there. But what I say to my boss is, I may not know it, and I'm not going to say I don't know. I say, this is what my view is. I don't know if I'm on the right path, but what do you think? And this person then feels like, okay, you know what? I can impart this knowledge. And I take that and add it to my repertoire of understanding. And then I'll go into meetings, and that then becomes, I own that piece of knowledge now that has equipped me to be able to walk into certain spaces and be the authority, because I've been able to humble myself to learn what I don't know. In order for you to understand the importance of confidence, you have to understand and see what happens to people who are not confident. People who do not exude some form of confidence, and it doesn't have to be loud confidence, you just have to be confident in yourself. People who do not have that find it very difficult to climb. Because what happens is, if you're not confident, people feel that you don't know. And remember, I said confidence doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be present. So like in that meeting with that fellow Black queen, my confidence was quiet. If you think about it, I hardly spoke, but they knew I was not the one. There is a loudness in silence, but there's also a loudness in understanding who I am. I speak when I need to speak. That is a confidence as well. Being able to know when to speak, knowing when to... Because you see, if they underestimate us, they don't see us coming. When we do speak, we automatically almost become the authority, because we have not necessarily been the loudest in the room. We've just known the answer, and we've known how to articulate ourselves and being able to know how to position ourselves. And this is the reason why you need to do your due diligence. It's so important. I don't understand how you can go into an organisation and not do that, because there's a confidence required to do your due diligence, because all that information that you're going to soak up, you're able then to use that due diligence to your advantage. There is a confidence in then using that due diligence. So I already know that these people have issues with Black women, fair enough. But I also know that by doing my due diligence on this Black queen, she is not as confident as she holds herself out to be, because she feels like she has to change and she has to be the butt of the jokes to be accepted. She needs to be accepted because she doesn't accept herself. So now I'm having to be in a meeting knowing full well that my fellow Black queen isn't as confident. So what do? I have to then be confident, not just for myself, but to represent my Black womanhood. They can't come chat shit to me in that meeting. They wouldn't even dare. They wouldn't. The one time they tried to ask me, have I changed my hairstyle? The way I dealt with it, they could never. I'm just not the person that you do that with. And then I found the balance in forging relationships anyway. So yeah, I said, this is my headscarf, and I went quiet and I made them uncomfortable. But you forge a relationship now because they also understand that actually Toya knows this stuff. I would rather respect than this temporary acceptance because of banter. That's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. What people don't realise is during the pandemic, this was an opportunity to really understand how people operate. Whether you've changed organisations or whatever, it was an opportunity to understand how people operate. If you've gone to a new organisation and it wasn't the same organisation you worked at during the pandemic, ask people, how did you cope with the lockdown? It gives you a real insight into them. Some people, they were angry that they had to spend time with their spouses because they hate them. They hate their house. They don't want to be there. They find joy out of being outside because being inside means they have to spend time with themselves. Yes, I learnt a lot. I learnt that one of the greatest things I learnt during lockdown is that people really are sad people. You work with some really sad people who find comfort comfort being at work, being able to micromanage, because that's the only authority they have. They don't have any in their own home. I learned a lot during the pandemic, I learned a lot about myself. I'm confident enough now to say, not only can I tell you what my non-negotiables are, but I'm not moving on them. It's not negotiable, non-negotiable. They're non-negotiable. I am a remote worker. I've felt safer as a Black woman working from home. And I've watched myself grow in confidence even more so because I've taken the time to really study how I learn. I've adapted. I've worked during a pandemic. I've had to deal with my mental health challenges. You can't come tell me about myself. But I've really given myself grace to take the time to get to know who I am. And how many of us can say that we know who we are because we've given ourselves the grace to get to know who we are? I think some of you think that you should just be born and know who you are, and that doesn't work, because your environment affects who you are, and therefore affects your level of confidence. The people you keep around you, your experiences of people and the workplace, and those are the things that we need to start taking into consideration when we are now building ourselves up to be confident people. I also want to say that there are times when your self-confidence has taken a battering, and your self-confidence is being challenged. And I want you to know it's okay. But what I will say to you is that anytime that I've kind of felt that way, I've never allowed that to be shown in an audience of people who are not encouraging my confidence, if that makes sense. So I remember where I currently work, and when I first started there, they would speak in they would use acronyms. Now, I don't know how many dyslexic people you know, but the average dyslexic person who has severe dyslexia doesn't do well with acronyms. Not people that I know that are dyslexic, we know. And it's bad because for me, acronyms are difficult because I need to understand the logic of the acronym. I need to accept the acronym, and then I need to use it. It's so weird how I learn. It's just so strange. And when I started working here, that's all they used was acronyms. And I felt so uncomfortable because I didn't want to be like the person that didn't know. And then I felt stupid because I was like, everybody knows this. Like, why do I not know it? Why can't I logically work it out? And I got really frustrated. And I thought, no, Toya, you are confident. So be confident enough to say you don't know. So I was in a meeting and I said, I'm really sorry. And at the risk of sounding really daft, you all are using these acronyms and I have completely no idea what any of these acronyms are. So for my benefit, could you please speak in long form so that I can understand and hopefully keep up with the pace of this meeting? Everyone stopped. But do you know there's a confidence in saying that? I do not know what you are talking about. But it's the way you say it. What I'm really saying is I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Haven't followed this meeting at all. You guys are using these acronyms. I am so confused and I just need you to just speak properly so I understand what you're saying. That's what I was really saying. But you see the way I delivered it? I made them accountable for excluding me in a meeting because they were speaking in acronym language I didn't understand. And what happened? They all started speaking in long form, and then I made it a point to write the acronym and the long form down so that in future meetings I'll know what it means. And then I started using the acronyms. So what I would do is use the long form and then use the acronym, so other people in the meeting, in other future meetings, would then understand what I'm saying. Can you see the confidence in being vulnerable? Own it. Sometimes you just have to own it. Own it. Let me give you another example. So I was talking a bit earlier about, when it comes to public speaking, and I do a lot of public speaking events. I know how much to charge. I've been doing this for a while now. But when it comes to working with brands, listen, one thing about creators, they don't share their rate cards. No one shares that. No one talks about that because, again, we don't talk about money. Remember, we did the financial literacy episode. We've got one more episode from the trilogy coming. People don't talk about that. So automatically now, if as a content creator, you'll probably price yourself quite low because you've got nothing to compare it to. Whereas public speaking is a completely different world. Yeah, I know how much I charge public speaking, and even that, I based it on kind of what I do, how much effort goes into what I do, but also as well, our American counterparts are a bit more open about what they charge. So I was able to have like a barometer of charging, and I definitely know that I'm charging at the right level. But as a content creator, I don't know. So I was a particular business wanted to work with me on something, and I gave them my rate card. God so kind, the lady that I was talking to, she said, Toya, I just want to let you know that you are pricing yourself too low. I said, excuse me? She said, yeah. Your rates are not high enough. I felt so grateful to this woman because I wouldn't have known. Because no one shares it, no one talks about it. But there is a confidence in saying you don't know. I didn't know. So this woman now is imparting this knowledge onto me because I've been vulnerable enough to tell her I don't know. So guess whose rate card makes sense right about now? My rate card makes a heck of a lot of sense now. You see, you don't always know. You're not always going to have the answer. But you have to be confident enough to say, I don't kind of have the answer. I have a roundabout answer, but I could really... It's how you talk to people as well. Like, everybody has an ego. When you speak to people's ego, you're more likely to oblige them to give you what you're looking for. There is a confidence, a quiet confidence in being vulnerable and being in control of that vulnerability. Do you hear what I'm saying? People are going to challenge your confidence. They are going to challenge your ability to remain confident. When that girl messaged me at 9:13, she challenged my confidence. I was in a good space. You're telling me that you had a dream I was lost at sea. You're telling me I was lost at sea. I had to have the confidence to advocate for myself and protect myself. And then still go to work in a white-dominated industry and have to show up and be confident too. If you start achieving the quick wins of life that will build confidence, you'll be able to walk into businesses and organizations and teams and be able to lean on that confidence in the world of work. You see, the world of work and life are very much intertwined. People try to separate them. They're intertwined. This is the reason why you could have a bad day at work and it could affect your home life. It's so intertwined that I've never met somebody who's confident at work but then timid at home. You know, you learn things, you pick up things in your environment and you do take them to work. But it's about fine-tuning yourself and your confidence and being able to know how to channel it in the right way in the world of work. You have to also accept you're not always going to know everything. You see a lot of these people that use big words, yeah, they weren't born with the big words. They weren't. Listen, we weren't born with teeth. So how are people going to be born with big words? How's it going to come out of their mouth? People learn it. Be a sponge. Observe people who are confident. Do you know one thing I loved about... I loved many things about Jamal Edwards, but he said in an interview that he suffers from imposter syndrome. Do you know the level of confidence you have to be able to be vulnerable enough to admit that? This is somebody who is a millionaire. He's a pioneer. This is somebody who single-handedly transformed music. And he is one of the people that discovered Ed Sheeran. This is a person who has many businesses and entrepreneurs saying to you that I don't do public speaking events because I suffer from imposter syndrome. Listen, when Jamal Edwards said that, there was the confidence that he already had and didn't realize that he is a public speaker because you're able to be vulnerable and be able to publicly speak where your vulnerability sits. There is a confidence in that. Let us not underestimate the little sparkle of confidence that we show in our daily lives. Excuse me, you've given me the wrong change? Yeah, you meant to give me £5, but you gave me 4. There's confidence in that. Confidence. Let's not underestimate the little things that build character, is what I'm trying to say. At work, there is a lady called Leah. I call her Leah. And she's very loud. If you know me, I'm not a morning person. So in a team meeting, when everyone's talking slowly, I just wanted to ask, she is loud. Why are you that bloody loud at 8:30 in the morning? What is that? What is chasing you? Leah is loud. And I find it very obnoxious because you must know you're loud. You must hear yourself. You're in your house. What the hell? I'm turning the volume down. The woman is still loud. So me and her work with the same supplier with 2 different contracts. And this particular supplier is a headache. But I know how to leverage the relationship with the supplier to get what I want. And my contract is very different from Leah's contract. So Leah was having some issues with her contract. So she reached out to me and she says, listen, I know you deal with this supplier on a separate contract, but I want to get some advice from you. So I was like, okay, cool. So she set up a meeting and her and I spoke. And I basically gave her the blueprint to get what she wants. Bearing in mind, I've been on this project for 14, 15 months and she's only been here for 5 weeks. Was it 6 weeks? I don't know. But weeks. Do you know that this colleague, Leah, then went to another colleague. And we're going to call the other colleague Esther. She went to Esther. And she asked Esther the same question she asked me. Now, Esther knows I know my contract really, really well. So Esther was like, Leah, did I hear you in a team meeting tell Toya that you wanted to talk to her? Have you not spoken to Toya about this? And Leah's like, yeah. And Toya gave me her advice, but I'm also asking you. And Esther was like, no. Toya is good at what she does. Like, do you know the value of the contracts that she works on? Do you know the value of the project that she's working on? Like, she works hard. So when you're coming to me, are you coming to validate what Toya said? Like, what is that? Now, I know this because Esther came back and told me. It felt like Leah was trying to test me. If this had been the 20-year-old Toya, I'm telling you now, my confidence, it would make me question my confidence. Why is she asking someone else? Does it mean that she thinks I'm not good at what I do? Does it mean that she thinks that, I'm doing the wrong thing? Like, it as a white woman, I mean, does she think, does she know this more than me? Because there was a point where I used to think white people knew more than me. Let me just confess it. But when Esther came to tell me this, I said, well, Esther, thank you for telling me. But, Leah's going to have to figure it out on her own. But I'm never helping her again. Because if you feel like you need to go and shop around for the answer and I've given it to you, what you're basically saying is that you have time to waste my time to help you and you don't value my time enough. I'm confident in what I do and the advice I gave her, and it works because I use it. You see, there are people that you work with that are going to challenge you and going to challenge the foundation of who you are, what you do, and how you do it. And those challenges should motivate you. There's something to learn in that as well, I learned from what Leah did when she went to speak to Esther. Do you know what I learned? I learned that sometimes there are going to be people like Leah who are supposed to challenge you because you're supposed to be confident in what you do. It's a reminder that there are people that are going to test you. So it's your job to be a subject matter expert in what you do. And insofar as you know you're doing the best job that you can, fuck anybody else and fuck them. Fuck what people want to do. That's my attitude. That is my attitude. There is a confidence in negotiating your salary. I challenge everyone, negotiate your salary. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because even if you get an increase, or even if the increase isn't even that much, the confidence you're going to feel and the excitement you're going to feel in yourself that you did that will encourage you now to do more. Do you understand? I have a whole negotiation masterclass on the website, on the toytalks.com website. Use it. Negotiate. Just quick wins of life. Do you know how confident I felt the first time I negotiated when I was a perm and I negotiated a salary increase? I felt confident because to whom much is given, much is expected. Then what that did, it gave me the confidence to walk in the job and do the job, or learn the job and do it well. I felt like oh wow, I did that. I did that. I negotiated my salary. I did that. I negotiated that title change. I did that. And what it does is it gives you the confidence to go on and continue to build confidence. Be under no illusion. The way that society is built is to test your confidence. So in as much as you're gaining confidence, there is a realization that you have to also accept that there are going to be challenges, and they have to be challenges because they have to test the strength of your confidence as well. And your job is to not show them when your confidence is attacked, when your confidence is tested. You regroup, rebuild, and you go again. You regroup and you rebuild and you go again. There is an episode, and it's about mistakes. And I'm so happy at work that I make mistakes. Oh yeah, I am. Because I'm bloody human. I'm a bloody human being. But the confidence isn't in the mistake. It's the ability to recover the mistake and make it a win. I say it in interviews all the time. I'm not afraid of making mistakes. I'm afraid of never making a mistake. I say it in interviews all the time. And people look at me and they're like, do you know what? It's so true. I don't go out there wanting to make mistakes, by the way. I don't say, yeah, I'm making a mistake. No. But it's about what you learn from those mistakes. Like, we are not like superhuman. We are human beings. And therefore, we are in a state of growth and learning. And confidence is something that you are going to have to put on your vision board, in your consciousness, to develop. Successful people have to have an air of confidence because you've got to inspire other people around you to believe you. The Tinder swindler was confident. Hush puppy, confident. These people were confident. As Black women, we have to be able to develop confidence because that is one of our other superpowers. Being Black, being a woman, and being confident. You don't have to be loud confident. You just have to exist in some confidence. Let's take the confidence one step further. So remember a few months ago, I did a financial literacy podcast episode, and I spoke about my relationship with money, where it came from, what my current relationship with money is now, and often having to be conscious in my relationship with money, right? Which is far, far better than what it used to, believe me. But I also spoke about kind of being like really poor and being in debt, and I've never been ashamed to tell you where I started, because where I started has to be remembered, because I'm not trying to ever go back there. Okay, so I'd say about 11, 12 years ago, things were really bad. You know, debt collectors would knock on the door and I would freeze in my own house. You know them one day. Before I leave my house, I'd look outside the window. Like, it was bad. And also, it didn't help that I couldn't hold down a proper job. It was just difficult, you know. And I don't know, like, I definitely feel like my relationship with money was just it was so poor. It was so bad, huh? And I had a lot of debt. And I had a credit card that I couldn't pay. And then when things seemed to be improving, I'd take out a credit card. Like, it just wasn't good. I just didn't understand also how credit cards work. I had no financial education. And that's why I did the financial education episode. And I spoke about it a lot. And there is another episode that is going to join that financial education trilogy. And that's coming up imminently, by the way. Sorry for the rustling, but I had to open up this letter. So a couple of weeks ago, I got a text message from a company called CapQuest. And CapQuest basically had written to me saying that I owed some money to a company, and they had bought the debt. And I need to pay the debt. So knowing me, I've paid all my debts. I'm financially debt free. So I had to give this some credibility because I was so bad with money that it could be quite true that I owe, and it's been over 10 years and obviously I don't remember. So the company said Santander, and I knew for a fact that one of the debts I paid was Santander, because I used to own a Santander account before they used to be called Abbey National. But I know that I paid off each and every debt, and one of them was Santander. So I wrote to them and I said, no, I've paid the Santander debt off. That debt was like from 2012 or even 2010. Like, I've paid that off. But irrespective of that, there is a statute of limitation. That statute bars this debt. If you have not pursued the debt in over 6 years, it becomes statute barred. So I did the complaint, wrote all of that in there, didn't hear anything. So I decided to call CapQuest, because they had now gotten my address, so they had posted me a letter and basically said that in the letter, what they said is they're happy to reach a financial settlement. They had got my mobile number, they were texting me and everything. So I had about 25 texts over the course of several weeks. And obviously I'm not going to contact this company and give them my details. I don't know who they are. The fraud is rife at the moment, you know. So then I called them up because they'd already had my address. They've got my number. So I had nothing to lose at this point. So I thought, let me just call them up. So I rang them up and they said, oh, it's Santander. I said, I don't owe Santander any money. They said, well, it's for a store card and it's underwritten by Santander. I said, what's the store card? They said, Topshop. I said, excuse me? I said, well, first of all, you've got the dates wrong, because it has to be when I worked there. So we're talking about, are we talking about 2005 here? Like, this was a long time ago. Yeah? So I said, this Topshop store card that I had, I used to work at Topshop, so I know when it was around. And I said, you guys actually took me to court and I got a CCJ against my name, and I remember it because it was the first CCJ I ever got, and I was petrified, and I told my dad. So they had it was like a hearing at Edmonton County Court, and I went there with my dad. And I remember because me and my dad walked there, because I was living in Tottenham. You could walk from our house to Edmonton County Court, and we walked, and my dad was cussing me. Oh my God, he was cussing me. So when we got to court, I decided to challenge something within the debt, and the judge said, sorry, if you wanted to challenge this, you should have put this in writing to allow Topshop to appear. Topshop aren't here because you haven't contested this debt, so you can't come here and contest it now. Sorry, this is for the claimant. You have to now pay the debt, and you're going to get a CCJ. So my dad wouldn't help me pay it. He said you had to learn the lesson. So over the course of about a month, I saved up money, I paid the debt. So now you can imagine how many years on, I don't have evidence that I paid that debt, but I know I paid it. I remember it like the back of my hand. So then when the guy, obviously I'd spoken to the guy, told me it's Topshop, whatever, I then put in writing again. And I said, listen, I have now found out that it's not Santander per se, it's Topshop. And the credit line is Santander. I paid this at the time. They filed judgment against me at Edmonton County Court, and I paid it. I remember I was banking with HSBC at the time. I do not bank with them. I do not even have any of the details of the HSBC account I had, because I don't bank with them anymore. I don't have it. They wrote back to me. They said, well, unless you can prove it, you still owed the debt. I said, no. Because if there was a CCJ, after 6 years, the CCJ drops off. That's why you can't go back to court and get another CCJ. And this debt is statute barred. So I don't understand why you've bought a debt that you can't enforce, but you're trying to use intimidation tactics to get the money. I said, put aside that I know I've paid for it. Yeah? And you're now telling me that I have to prove I've paid for it. Put that to one side, because I can't prove to you I've paid it. What I will say to you is my integrity as a human being is that if I owed this debt and I know in myself I haven't paid it, I will give you £337 right now and I'll pay it. I will pay it, because at the end of the day, if I owe, I will pay. But what I'm not going to do is now try to rack my brain to how to prove it to you. When I know that if you go to Edmonton County Court, give them my details, I give you my old address that it was registered against, that you'll be able to see that it was paid off. But it's already dropped off, because we're talking about something from 2005. And you're coming here. That don't make any sense. I said, so put that to one side, I've paid for it. I'm challenging this on the basis of it being statute barred. Do you know these people came back to me to tell me that even though there was a county court judgment registered on my credit file back in 2005, and the fact that it has dropped off, it doesn't mean I still don't owe the debt. I still owe the debt. Look at how somebody's remixing the law. It doesn't even make sense. It don't make sense. So I said, okay, if I still owe the debt, enforce it then. If I still owe the debt, enforce it. You can't, because it's statute barred. I said, this debt is over 10 years old. And you cowboys bought it knowing you can't enforce it. But you made all types of promises to the Santander Topshop store card that you can't. I said, maybe it's because Philip Green has run out of money. You're not coming to make money out of me. It's not going to happen. So then I ended up writing to the creditors who own the debt. Yeah? So they've hired CapQuest, who've bought it off them. But they bought it off another debt. I wrote to them. I said, listen, I paid this debt in 2005 and I can't prove it. But what I can tell you and what I can prove is that due to the statute of limitation, which says that any debt that has not been enforced in over 6 years becomes statute barred. You have to write it off. I said, secondly, you falsely allowed another company to buy this debt, and they've been harassing me. And now I've gotten to the bottom of this. I can tell you at my big age, if I owed this money genuinely, I would just pay it today. Because one thing for me is when you owe, you pay. But I don't owe this. But the reason I'm challenging this as a point of principle is there's people that will pay this, really believing that after they got county court judgment and then it dropped off, that they still owe it. I said, I don't owe this anymore. The Statute of Limitation Act says that after 6 years, it becomes statute barred, which means you cannot enforce something. You have to write it off. There is a confidence in knowledge. Can you see the reason why I'm telling you this? You have to be a subject matter expert in what you're talking about. Knowledge gives confidence because I'm talking to them with confidence. These people, for all I know, can mess up my credit file. My credit is very, 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 very good. I've worked on my credit for years. I've worked on this credit. I can't have anything blemishing my credit, you know. If I'm ignorant to the facts, I would have paid this money. CapQuest would have been celebrating and jubilating. 25 text messages, and they'll text me from different numbers. You need to call this person. You need to call us now for settlement. But you know what? I twigged. You're asking me to settle it. You're not telling me how you're going to enforce it because you know you can't. You need me to settle it because you've promised the people you bought the debt that I'll pay it. You've convinced them that even though you registered a CCJ, dropped off, you've told them that after how many years, over 10 years, it's still owed. It don't even make sense. Because I had the confidence to challenge it, and I'm not a subject matter expert in debt, because I'm past that stage now. What I am a subject matter expert is understanding what my rights are and how to enforce them. I got a letter today from the Santander, the store card. They said that they can confirm that the account is closed because it is statute barred, and therefore they will not be pursuing me for any money. They take into account my letter dated so-and-so date, that it was paid at the time. However, they don't have evidence of this, but they understand that they have a duty to go and find that evidence. It's not for me to prove it to them. In any case, this matter is closed because it's statute barred. Can you see why it's important to understand your rights and to be confident enough to advocate for yourself and be confident enough to assert yourself. I would have been over £300 short just because of intimidation. No. So you see how confidence seeps its way into every part of your life? It's not just isolated to the world of work. It's isolated to the world of work and life. To be the change you want to see, you have to be confident enough to show up. Show up for yourself. Show up in certain situations. And show up when you need to be able to cover yourself. Being confident is one of my superpowers because I've had to be confident. Because the alternative is to be silent, to be invisible, and I refuse. We have worked far too hard, made far too many sacrifices to not be confident enough to know when to assert ourselves. Confidence is something that you learn. It's not something that you're born into. I don't believe that. You learn to be confident because you acknowledge that confidence is the key to open several doors. So I hope this episode inspires you to search yourself, develop, and understand how to use your confidence and how to be confident, and understand that the ingredients of being confident lies in you and sits in you. I really hope this episode resonates with you. Please share this episode with anybody you feel that needs to be encouraged in their confidence. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to follow me on social media, of course, I am on Instagram, Toya Washington, all one word. Follow me on TikTok, Toya Washington, all one word. I'm also on Twitter, Toya_W. If you want to follow me on Snapchat, my handle is Toya Washington, which is all one word. Of course, you can follow me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is At Home with Toya. I will be uploading a new episode hopefully this week, so you should definitely tune in to watch that. If you have a work-related dilemma, please email hello@toytalks.com and we will work through your dilemmas. I have quite a few dilemmas in the mailbox, so I'll be addressing them next week in next week's episode. I also want to thank each and every one of you who has followed, liked any of the videos and the tips that I post on TikTok. I am now at 3,000 followers on TikTok, which is great because I haven't been on TikTok for long. I've been there for a matter of weeks. So I really do appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the interaction on TikTok and also allowing a new audience to also discover Toy Talks, which is amazing, the podcast and the platform. You guys better stay tuned though, because the masterclasses are coming. I'm really excited for those to be uploaded onto the website, so you are in for a treat. Also as well, keep your eyes peeled. We are doing a live remote employment contract masterclass, limited tickets. Keep your eyes peeled on my social media platforms, because once the tickets are gone, they are gone. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to thank each and every one of you for joining me, for really committing to the Toy Talks podcast, for sharing it. The word of mouth is probably the greatest marketing tool that we have. And thank you for also covering me with all your blessings and all your positivity, your DMs of encouragement, and telling me how the platform has really helped you in your career and transformed your careers. That is what motivates me to keep going. The emails that I get in the mailbox about how the Toy Talks platform has transformed your working life and how you've used it to elevate and grow in confidence and also grow in yourself. Thank you for each and every one of you that continue to listen and share the Toy Talks podcast. And next week, Tuesday, we have a really exciting episode. I'm actually excited for the topic because my current workplace is the gift that keeps on giving. And there is at least 4 or 5 episodes from my current workplace of things that have been transpiring over the last few weeks. So make sure you listen, because there's something to learn. You see, next week's episode, as is every episode, there's something to learn. But understanding the roles that people play in the workplace is very important. I saw a post about which do you prefer, the work snitch or the person who is like the micromanager? And I'm going to give you an interesting perspective over those two options. And Next week's episode is going to be very interesting. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.